Imagine for a moment that you are living someone else's life, that the person you see in the mirror every morning is wearing a mask, carefully constructed from the expectations of your parents, the demands of society, and the fears of childhood. That somewhere deep inside exists another version of you, one you have never met. Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, dedicated his life to studying this mystery. And his answer shocks most people. We truly do not know who we really are. But what is even more remarkable, hidden in this ignorance, is the key to understanding the meaning of our entire life. Are you ready to discover who you really are? Carl Gustav Jung was born in 1875 in Switzerland and lived a life filled with intellectual breakthroughs and personal crises. Beginning his career as a follower of Sigmund Freud, he soon separated from his teacher, realizing that the human psyche is far deeper and more complex than a simple repository of repressed sexual desires. Jung proposed a revolutionary idea. Our psyche consists not only of personal experience, but also contains the collective unconscious, a repository of universal images and patterns that humanity has accumulated over millennia. These universal images he called archetypes. Mother, father, hero, shadow, sage. These figures live not only in myths and fairy tales, but in the depths of every human soul. They influence our decisions, shape our relationships, and guide our life path, often without our conscious understanding. Jung understood something remarkable. We are not simply individuals. We are bearers of the collective memory of all humanity. If you are interested in learning more about the depths of the human psyche, subscribe to the channel and like this video. There are many more discoveries ahead. Most people are unaware that their lives are controlled by invisible forces. From early childhood, we learn to create the persona, a social mask we wear to interact with the world. This mask helps us fit into society, gain our parents' approval, and achieve success at work. We become obedient children, good students, responsible workers, caring parents. But behind every persona lurks its opposite, the shadow. The shadow is everything we consider unacceptable in ourselves and reject. It is our greed, which we hide behind generosity, our aggression disguised as calm, our vulnerability hidden behind strength. But Jung discovered a remarkable truth. The shadow contains not only dark qualities, but also light ones that we suppressed out of fear of standing out or not meeting expectations. A talented artist may suppress their gift because their family expected them to become a lawyer. A sensitive man may hide his emotionality to conform to rigid stereotypes of masculinity. The psyche protects itself through mechanisms of projection. We see in other people the qualities we have rejected in ourselves. A person who has suppressed their own aggression will constantly encounter aggressive people around them. Someone who denies their hunger for power will accuse others of manipulation. This is no accident. It is the unconscious's way of showing us what we refuse to see in ourselves. Few people realize that the most common crisis of adult life is not accidental, but inevitable. Imagine a successful 40-year-old man, an excellent career, family, home, car, everything he dreamed of at 20. And then one morning he wakes up with an agonizing question. Is this all? Did I live for this? This is the beginning of a midlife crisis, which Jung considered not a catastrophe, but a necessary stage of development. Or consider a woman who spent 20 years raising children. The children grew up, left home, and she suddenly discovers she doesn't know who she is without the role of mother. Panic, depression, despair, all signs that the persona she created no longer works. Many people at this moment begin to act impulsively. They have affairs, buy expensive sports cars, change jobs or partners. But this is not a solution. It is a desperate attempt to escape from the inner voice that demands to be heard. Jung understood these crises are not signs of weakness, but a soul's call to transformation. Behind external success lies inner emptiness, because the person has lived not their own life, but the life others expected of them. Why does this happen? Jung's depth psychology provides a striking explanation. In the first half of life, our main task is developing the ego, a strong sense of I. We must obtain education, build a career, create a family, find our place in society. This is absolutely necessary, and there is nothing wrong with it. The ego gives us structure, identity, the ability to function in the world. But the ego is not the whole personality. There is a deeper reality that Jung called the self. The self is the wholeness of the psyche, encompassing both conscious and unconscious, both persona and shadow, and all opposites within us. It represents the true center of personality, while the ego is only the center of consciousness. Most people get stuck at the level of the ego, identifying themselves with their social role, profession, achievements. But the psyche cannot forever tolerate this limitation. Sooner or later, it begins to signal, through depression, anxiety, somatic symptoms, intrusive thoughts, or recurring dreams. This is not a disease, it is a message. The unconscious says, you are living an incomplete life. It is time to begin the process of individuation. Individuation is the central concept of Jung's psychology. It is the process of becoming yourself, integrating all parts of the psyche into a unified whole. This is not egoism or self-indulgence. It is psychological maturity, the path to true wholeness. Few know that the psyche sends us signals long before a crisis becomes apparent. Jung discovered that certain signs herald the beginning of transformation, but most people ignore them until the last moment. The first sign is recurring dreams with similar symbols or situations. A person may spend years dreaming that they are lost, late for an important event, or cannot find their way out of a maze. These are not random images. It is the unconscious's way of saying that something is wrong in their life. The second sign is synchronicity, or meaningful coincidence. Jung introduced this term to describe events connected not by cause and effect, but by meaning. You think of an old friend and they suddenly call. You read about a certain symbol and you immediately encounter it in real life. You experience an inner crisis, and at that time an external event occurs that perfectly reflects your state. These coincidences are not accidental. They indicate that the psyche is at a critical point of transformation, where the inner and outer worlds begin to resonate with each other. The third sign is an inexplicable attraction to things that previously held no interest for you. A rational businessman suddenly becomes fascinated with mysticism. A practical woman begins to paint. A skeptic becomes immersed in the study of mythology. These are not whims. They are the voice of rejected parts of the personality demanding integration. There is a hidden reason why these signals are so easily ignored. Our culture teaches us to trust only the rational mind and visible results. But Jung insisted that the irrational, the symbolic, the intuitive are just as real and important aspects of the psyche as logic. The first half of life is devoted to building, the second to seeking meaning. Jung described the life path as divided into two fundamentally different stages, each with its own tasks and dangers. Until 35 or 40 years old, people are oriented outward. They adapt to society, build careers, create families, earn money, acquire status. This is a time of extroverted energy directed toward the external world. Culture supports and rewards these efforts. Diplomas, promotions, recognition, material goods. A person identifies themselves with their achievements and thinks, I am successful, therefore I am happy. But this is an illusion that sooner or later shatters. After 40, the second half of life begins, where external achievements cease to bring satisfaction. Energy turns inward. Questions change from how can I succeed to what is the meaning of all this? a person begins to recognize the finitude of life, the nearness of death, the limitation of time. This is a frightening but necessary realization. Many try to resist this turn, clinging to the strategies of the first half of life. They double their efforts at work, replace partners with younger ones, try to look younger, deny aging. But this is a dead end. The psyche demands something different. It demands depth, meaning, authenticity. Relationships also change during this period. Partners who have lived together for years suddenly discover they don't know each other. Each has lived their life in their own persona, and now, as the masks begin to fall, they meet as strangers. For some, this is the end of the relationship. For others, it is an opportunity to meet anew at a deeper level. This is painful, but in this pain lies the path to real intimacy. There is a striking pattern. It is impossible to move toward wholeness without confronting the shadow. Shadow integration is the first and most important step on the path of individuation. This means acknowledging and accepting all those parts of ourselves that we have rejected, suppressed, or projected onto others. This is extremely difficult work because it requires honesty that most people avoid their entire lives. We must acknowledge our greed, envy, cowardice, cruelty, everything we consider shameful. But the reward for this work is enormous. When the shadow is integrated, it ceases to control us from the unconscious. We gain freedom of choice instead of compulsive behavior. The energy that was spent suppressing unwanted qualities is freed up and becomes available for creativity and growth. After shadow integration, a person encounters the anima and animus archetypes, inner opposites. Every man has within him a feminine side, the anima, and every woman has within her a masculine side, the animus. Anima connects a man to his emotions, intuition, capacity for relationships, and connection to the unconscious. If she is not integrated, a man projects her onto women, either idealizing or devaluing them, always seeking in the external world what he should find within himself. Animus gives a woman access to strength, logic, the ability to act and make decisions. An unintegrated animus becomes a critical inner voice or projects onto men as the expectation that they should provide meaning and direction to her life. Integration of these archetypes leads to balance. A man gains access to his sensitivity without losing strength, a woman to her strength without losing femininity. The psyche strives for balance of opposites, and in this balance, wholeness is born. As Jung said, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. Here lies a deep truth about human nature. Life is not a linear path to success as society teaches us, but a cyclical process of death and rebirth. The old self must die for the new self to be born. This is not a metaphor, it is a real psychological experience. Jung himself went through this process at age 38, when, after breaking with Freud, he immersed himself in a deep personal crisis. He was visited by visions of apocalypse, conversations with inner figures, experiences that bordered on madness. He recorded these visions, drew them, engaged in dialogue with images from the unconscious. The result was the Red Book, a massive illuminated manuscript that he created over 16 years and kept secret until 2009, nearly 50 years after his death. In the Red Book, Jung describes encounters with archetypal figures, Elijah and Salome, the Red Knight, his own soul, and many others. This was not literary creation, but active imagination, a method of dialogue with the unconscious that later became one of the most important tools of Jungian psychotherapy. Jung understood that these experiences were not symptoms of psychosis, but a necessary stage of transformation. He descended into the depths of his own psyche to find there the source of life and meaning. Later he wrote, "The years when I followed the inner images were the most important time of my life. Everything else should be derived from that. It started then, and the subsequent details scarcely matter. All my subsequent life has consisted of elaborating on what burst out of the unconscious and flooded me like a mysterious river. Wholeness, according to Jung, does not mean perfection. It means accepting all opposites within yourself: light and darkness, strength and weakness, rationality and irrationality. It is a reconciliation with the paradoxical nature of human existence. Jung also discovered the spiritual dimension of the psyche. He was not religious in the traditional sense, but deeply respected religious experience as psychological reality. The archetypes of God, Christ, Buddha, these are not illusions, but symbols of the self, that deepest wholeness toward which every soul strives. Individuation is a secular form of a spiritual path, available to everyone, regardless of religious beliefs. So we return to the question we began with: what if you are not who you think you are? Jung answers, you are right. You are much more. You are not just your profession, not just your social role, not just a set of habits and beliefs. You are an entire universe containing within itself the wisdom of millennia, archetypal images, infinite potential for growth and transformation. The meaning of life, according to Jung, is not in achieving external goals, but in the process of becoming yourself. Not who others want you to be, not an idealized version, but yourself, with all your contradictions, your shadows, and your light. This is the path of individuation, and it requires courage, the courage to face your shadow, to acknowledge what we have rejected, the courage to let go of the persona, even if society condemns us, the courage to descend into the unconscious, where there are no guarantees of safety. But it is there, in these depths, that the source of genuine life is found. Jung showed that crises, depression, suffering, these are not enemies but teachers. They point to the fact that the soul demands change, that the old path no longer works. Instead of suppressing these signals or fleeing from them, we must listen, descend within, and ask, what is my psyche trying to tell me? Every person carries within them the seed of wholeness. It can sprout at any age, but most often it happens in the second half of life, when external achievements lose their power and the real search begins. This is not an easy path, but it is the only path to genuine life. Jung believed that every person's task is to become aware of and realize their unique potential, to become who they were meant to be from the beginning. Not a copy of someone else, not an embodiment of others' expectations, but yourself. Now you know the main thing. Life is not a race for success, but a journey to yourself. And this journey begins the moment you dare to ask the question, who am I really? If this video has helped you see your life in a new way, subscribe to the channel and like it. There are many more discoveries about the depths of the human soul ahead. And now close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, what part of myself have I suppressed? What is my soul trying to tell me? And am I ready to begin the path to wholeness? The answer already lives within you.